Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnavad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Stadasasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So incidentally, devotees, we have just received a whole lot of cushions. And according to nectar of devotion, one is not meant to sit directly on the actual floor. It may be a health consideration too, sitting on a cold floor. But anyway, at least we can engage these cushions. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2. Daksha curses Lord Shiva, text 21. Ya etan martyam udishya bhagavate aprati druhi druyate agya pritag drishtis tatvato vimukto bhavet ya etan martyam udishya Bhagavatya pratidruhi druyat yagya pritagdrishtis tatvato vimukho bhavet ya etan martyam udishya Bhagavatya pratidruhi druyat yagya pritagdrishtis tatvato vimukho bhavet ya etan martyam udishya Bhagavatya pratidruhi druyat yagya pritagdrishtis tatvato vimukho bhavet.
Bhagavatya pratidruhi Druyatya pritagdrishtis Tatvato vimukho bhavet Ya etan martyamudishya Bhagavatya pratidruhi Druyatya pratyagdrishtis Tadvato vimukho bhavet. Bhagavati aprati druhi Druyati hagna prithak dristis Tadvato vimukho bhavet.
Yahu Daksha Etat Martyam. This body, Udishya, with reference to Bhagavati, to Shiva, Aprati Druhi, one who is not envious, Druyati, bears envy, Agya, less intelligent persons, Pritakdrishti, the vision of duality, Tatvata, from transcendental knowledge, Vimokha, bereft, Bhavet, may become. Translation: anyone who has accepted Daksha as the most important personality and neglected Lord Shiva because of envy is less intelligent, and because of visualizing in duality will be bereft of transcendental knowledge. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The first curse by Nandishvara, because this is Nandishvara speaking, by the way, you may remember from last week. Daksha pronounced his curse on Lord Shiva, and then Nandishvara, a very close associate of Lord Shiva, just started cursing. There's a few curses from Nandishvara. This is the first one, just a counter curse. There's a number of them coming, we'll see over the next few days. So, okay. The first curse by Nandishvara was that anyone supporting Daksha was foolishly identifying himself with the body. And therefore, because Daksha had no transcendental knowledge, supporting him would deprive one of transcendental knowledge. Daksha, Nandishvara said, identified himself with the body like other materialistic persons and was trying to derive all kinds of facilities in relationship with the body. He had excessive attachment for the body and in relation to the body with wife, children, home, and other such things, which are different from the soul. Therefore, Nandishvara's curse was that anyone who supported Daksha would be bereft of transcendental knowledge of the soul, and thus also be deprived of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yaitan marcham udishya bhagavat yaprati druhi druyat yagya pritag drishtis tatvato vimoko bhavet. Anyone who has accepted Daksha as the most important personality and neglected Lord Shiva because of envy is less intelligent, and because of visualizing in duality will be bereft of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Jatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so yeah, this is Nandishvara, close associate of Lord Shiva, like very dedicated servant of Lord Shiva. And of course, he's feeling greatly disturbed by the initial curse of Daksha, which is only natural. So he's reacting. The curse, Daksha's curse, it's a very specific curse, is that when yagyas are performed, and particularly, well, specifically, yagyas to demigods, then oblations are offered into the fire in the names of the so many different demigods, and those demigods receive whatever's offered. There's some process through which, if some oblations are offered somewhere, anywhere in the universe, in the name of a particular demigod, then that demigod, even though in a different place, will receive the benefit, some benefit from that. And in this way, the demigods live, actually. When Hiranyakashipu took over the universe, he stopped offerings of sacrifice to the demigods, and he says, in this way, the demigods will starve because they will not be receiving. It's a higher arrangement of the functions of the universe, that the demigods are maintained. Their lives are maintained, amongst other things, by receiving oblations from sacrifice. So his curse was that Lord Shiva will not get any oblations at all. That's the end for Lord Shiva. So in this way, Lord Shiva, his idea was, Lord Shiva will feel greatly inconvenienced and he'll be bereft and he won't be able to live nicely. So in this way, it's a punishment for what Daksha regards as this very, very serious offense against himself of not standing up to receive him when he entered the sacrificial assembly and not saying any sweet words of appreciation or glorification. And you must know, you really must know, that if people don't speak words of glorification of you when you enter somewhere, but you become upset by it, you must know you've got a problem and you should really take some action. And if you really want to get some experience of, well, you could say the benefit of not being glorified or even being criticized or even vilified, go out on the streets and distribute Prabhupada's books. It'll happen sometimes. I mean, not every time, but it'll happen sometimes. And it's very good for one's personal development as a devotee. So Nandishvara, though, he has basically got into some similar type of mood to Daksha. And he's overreacting. But it's very important to note that even though he's overreacting, and he shouldn't do like that, and it's not right, but still it will be effective, because these people, they have that power, that if they say something, it becomes fact. At the end of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma is instructing Narada Muni, his son, in different things, well, about the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how Krishna is the highest and he, Lord Shiva, even though many, and it appears Narada Muni at that point was thinking that Lord Brahma may be the highest, but Krishna is actually the highest. And Lord Brahma makes the point that because I am dedicated to Lord Krishna and I am just a sold out servant, I just have no interest other than pleasing Lord Krishna. Because of that, he tells Narada Muni, whatever I say becomes true. And if your position is going to be like that, then you must be very careful what you say, because it'll become true. And so this is an example also. This is not just Nandishvara's just letting off steam and becoming overexcited and offensive, but that's going to be the end of it. What he says is going to happen. And yes, therefore, many, in Brahman in the Brahman community, in the very broad sense of all the Brahmins, there are different subdivisions of Brahmins. They're not all just the same. There's all different. There's Bhattas, Bhattacharyas, there's Dvivedis, Trivedis, Chaturvedis, and Mishras, and there's just all sorts, many sorts, and many subdivisions and subdivisions of Brahmin community. But those who were supporters of Daksha in this particular case, those specific groups, there were different groups there, but those specific groups of Brahmins, by the curse of Nandishvara, those specific groups of Brahmins who were supporting Daksha and even simply not standing up and protesting, Daksha, stop this. They just sat there and, some of them, Prabhupada mentioned, some of them probably thought that actually it was a good thing, that Shiva deserved to be cursed like that, and others just sat there but they all became implicated, and Nandishvara is cursing all of them, and his curse is they'll become bereft of transcendental knowledge. That's his curse. Daksha's curse is Lord Shiva will not get the results of demigod sacrifices, and therefore he'll be missing out on something. At least that's how Daksha's thinking. He'll be missing out on something he's dependent on, and therefore I'm hurting him, punishing him. But now here, all these different people, including these different types of Brahmin supporters of Daksha, they're all going to become bereft of transcendental knowledge. Means just situated on the material platform. As Nandishvara says, pritak drishti. Pritak means duality. It's translated here as duality. Drishti means to see, vision. Pritak drishti. They'll be seeing duality. They'll be seeing things on the material level and accepting things and thinking of everything in terms of material duality. And they won't be able to come to some transcendental level of really appreciating the presence of the soul in all living entities and all the implications of that. An interesting little point is that in the third canto we read, not so long ago, how Lord Kapila, instructing Mother Devahuti, he at one point, it's in the later chapters of the third canto, he instructs Mother Devahuti on 4 types or 4 levels of devotees. 3 are on different material levels of being devotees, and the 4th is completely transcendental devotee. But those devotees who are, like substantially materially influenced, then Lord Kapila uses the term pritak bhava. Pritak bhava. Pritak, it's the same thing. This is pritag. But actually, if you look in the word for word, you'll see it's actually pritak. It's pritag as it appears in the verse with the other words because of the rules of sandhi and how words, the ends of words change when they meet the beginnings of other words. So yeah, pritak bhava. And there, the way Srila Prabhupada has translated that term, well, bhava, pritak bhava, bhava basically means in this context nature, that type of nature. And Srila Prabhupada translates pritak there as separatist. Pritak bhava. They have the natures of separatists. They won't have the natures of being cooperative devotees. But they'll be thinking of themselves and what's in it for me in devotional service, which, is certainly better than thinking what's in it for me just in ordinary material life. But still, it's not like a real, proper type of Krishna consciousness. That's the 4th category. Those are the pure devotees. They are seeing everything in relation to Krishna, and therefore there's a type of vision of oneness, not impersonal, but a type of vision of oneness in relation, everything's in relation to Krishna. So basically, Nandishvara is giving us a similar, not unrelated type of curse here. That all of these people, even all of these Brahmins, Brahma Janatiti Brahmana, that's a type of a definition of what's a Brahman. Brahma Janatiti Brahmana. That a Brahman, what's a Brahman? It's someone who's situated in Brahman, in Brahma, in spirituality, in Brahman. So they won't be able to fulfill that. You could say it's like the most basic, real qualification of a genuine Brahman, of being situated on the spiritual platform of Brahman. So yes, they'll be bereft of transcendental knowledge, and therefore being on the material platform and accepting the material platform of duality as the real platform, as Prabhupada points out, they will then develop excessive attachment to wife, children, home, and other such things. It's one thing for a householder devotee to have a sense of closeness to husband, wife, children, and so on. But it's another thing, to have a sense of closeness in relation to Krishna, but it's another thing just to think that this is what it's all about. That due to pritag drishtis, the vision of duality, such a person, even though supposedly a Brahmin, will be really attached on the bodily platform and convinced that this is all like the essence of reality, and therefore I'm focused on it, and my life is trying to develop these things. So, deprived of knowledge of the soul and deprived of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's an interesting, very interesting incident. It's referred to by Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan in his commentary on Tattvasandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami. He talks about, Jiva Goswami talks about how Lord Krishna says in the beginning, in the second verse of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what is it? Evam parampara praptam imam yat raja shayovadu sakali neha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. That the science was of Krishna consciousness, which the Lord had given to Vivaswan before. So from Vivaswan, the same science of Bhagavad Gita was passed down through the line of saintly kings. But then, in the course of time, the science was lost. It was lost. And Krishna says, therefore, I'm speaking it to you again. Yoga nashta. Nashta means destroyed. So that science of yoga, of the relationship with the Supreme, was destroyed. And Jiva Goswami says it was destroyed by the curse of Gautama. And Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan explains that. What was the curse of Gautama? That the universe was going on and everything was basically in order. But then somehow a great famine occurred in the universe, some sort of massive, I guess, interplanetary famine or something occurred. And as a result, all the sages, everyone, including all the sages, were put into difficulty. All the big Brahmins, they were put into difficulty. Everyone except Gautama. His place was just opulent and nice, and everything was there. So all the sages went and just arrived on the doorstep of Gautama. We have come to stay. And so, of course, he had to let them, because you can't refuse a guest. So they stayed, and they lived nicely by the grace of Gautama, Rishi. But then, after a while, the famine finished. And so everyone should go back to all these Brahmins and sages should go back to where they come from. And it was a bit of a burden for Gautama, having so many of them there. So he was trying to sort of subtly hint, where are you from? I heard that things are nice there now. Did you hear that? But they wouldn't leave. They liked Gautama's. I guess he had some massive ashram. And they didn't want to leave. So, Gautama, in order to get them to leave, Gautama made a calf out of straw and put it on the path, which they would all take to the river for bathing early in the morning when it was dark. So the next morning, those sages, they went down to the river, but they knocked into the straw calf, but they couldn't see it was straw. And Gautama then came and grabbed the the straw calf, and took it away. And when they came back, he accused them, "You've killed a calf. There was a calf on the path. You've killed a calf. Where's the calf? Oh, I buried the calf already." So you can't stay. You can't stay, you must go. I can't have you here because you're cow killers. So they were all a bit bewildered, but they left. And, there was some cursing and bad words going on. But in the end, Gautama cursed them. May all you Brahmins lose your knowledge. And therefore, Jiva Goswami says, this is what Krishna is referring to in Bhagavad Gita when he says that in course of time, the succession was broken. And the knowledge was lost. And therefore Krishna had to appear to re-establish that knowledge on the basis of the curse of Gautama. So anyway, the bottom line really is we mustn't curse. Even because we are Kali Yuga, mixed up and messed up conditioned souls, if we try to curse, it will not work. But if you try to curse, but you haven't got the potency to make it work, it comes back on you. There's a description of that, if I remember correctly, by Prabhupada himself, if not by one of our acharyas, in relation to the pastime of the killing of the king of Kashi and his son. Well, I guess Krishna killed the king of Kashi, or somebody did, and threw the head of the king of Kashi into the city, over the city walls. And the son got really angry and made a curse against Krishna. And the curse was he produced some demon to go and kill Krishna. But the demon didn't have the potency to kill Krishna. So Krishna didn't bother killing the demon. He just sent the demon back, and the demon killed the son of the king of Kashi because he didn't have the potency to enforce the curse, particularly on Krishna. So therefore, other than just being extremely non-devotional, but it's very dangerous for unqualified people like all of us. Unqualified, well, in many senses, but in this sense, in terms of mystical power, to curse. Because you got to watch out. It may come back on you. And even if it doesn't, your mind will just be agitated. And if some situation, if you're offended so badly that you're just feeling, irate enough to just do something about it, then you should really consider. We mentioned last week how if someone insults you, it's because you insulted someone before. It's not that you are just the innocent victim. There I was minding my own business, chanting Hare Krishna, and suddenly I got terribly offended, and therefore I have the right to take action against the offender. That's pritag drishti. That's the vision of duality. But devotees should understand that this has come to me because of my offense before. Therefore, there's no one to blame except me. And even if I don't punish, because if someone offends, even if from the offended person's point of view, it really is because of their previous offense, but the person who commits the offense will get the results of committing offense. In other words, they can't just say, well, I was fulfilling the karma of that person, so there was no offense on my part. No, these things are complex. The intricacies of action are difficult to understand, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So don't worry, even if you don't enforce the reaction on the offender, don't worry. Krishna's watching, and Yamaraj is watching, and it will definitely come back. But because you're a devotee, maybe, well, I'm sure at some point in some previous life, you actually killed someone. What can we say? It's more or less inevitable to have happened. But now, because you're a devotee, if you were not a devotee, now you'd be killed. Because that's just, you killed, you get killed. It's simple. But now, because you're a devotee, even though you killed, and this is the reaction, now you just get insulted a bit. They tell you you're a dirty, rotten swine, or something like that. Some heinous insult. Krishna reduces for the devotees. Dirty, rotten swine. I know when I was a child, I listened to the Goon Show. I don't know if you ever heard of the Goon Show. It was before television, radio comedy show with Peter Sellers, Harry Seacombe, and this is what one of the characters would say regularly: dirty, rotten swine. Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? Comment. Words of wisdom.
I was just thinking about that king of Kashi and how he was killed, and his son then, he invoked the blessings of Lord Shiva. He performed a yagya, Lord Shiva came. But Lord Shiva gave him the benediction that a demon would be created to kill his father's slayer. But he should only use it against someone who's inimical to Brahmins.
Oh.
But this prince used it against Krishna, so it was never going to work because Krishna is so favorable to the Brahmanas.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, it was destined to fail.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mother Lalita Kund. Just pass her the microphone.
Guru Maharaj, we all commit offenses and karma from our last life, some to a much more degree and some to a lesser degree. So how many % of the karma do we carry to the next life from the last life?
If we're on the material platform, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. If you're on the material platform, Prabhupada, I forget exactly where it is, but Srila Prabhupada explains that normally in your next life, the majority of the karma you will get is from your immediate previous life, but not all. So to be specific would be not really possible. Like, for example, we just mentioned killing, but if you killed twice, then you cannot be killed twice, generally. What if you killed 1,000 times? This sort of situation. So certain things are carried over from the more distant past. But otherwise, in general, the majority of the karma you get in this life is from the immediate life. And so you'll burn up the majority or maybe all of your karma from your previous life in this life, generally. Except for these, more sort of, things which will take more than one life to come to you. But for devotees, the way it's described is that Krishna takes your karma, sarva dharman parityaja. Yeah, Krishna takes your karma, but then it becomes his property. Of course, he's totally unaffected by it. But in your next life, you're a devotee, or even the present life, you're a devotee. And Krishna, when he feels that it will help you, he will give you some of your karma. Yeah, to teach you a lesson. Because it's his property now. It's not yours any longer. Yeah. So, yeah, and otherwise, like we said about people on the material platform, but the thing is that there's so much karma accumulated which goes beyond one lifetime, the results of which must go beyond one lifetime. So the amount of karma which people have, is described as being like a mountain. It's the accumulated karma. A mountain hovering over your head. And every now and then, this sort of suspended mountain, a rock falls off, bash, and you get some special karmic reaction. Wow. Yeah. I think that's what I could say about that. Hare Krishna. Yes, go ahead.
Maharaj, I was wondering, why is it that Krishna's pure devotees who are on the transcendental platform and who don't have any karmic reactions to suffer still appear to go through so many difficulties, like the Pandavas, Haridas Thakur, and even Srila Prabhupada?
Yeah. Well, there are different reasons. But one is very important, in terms of the people you mentioned, is that they are, and Prabhupada too, they're participants in the pastimes of the Lord. And therefore, to illustrate points, to set examples, this type of thing, Krishna puts them in different types of situations. Which, may be bad. They sort of would tend to be the most prominent or noticeable, but they may also be very good, so that others can learn, like we can learn, how we should act when we're placed in such situations. Yes. Actually it's described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in quite specific terms. In these terms, like we mentioned, I guess, really. But in Madhurya Kadambini, the section about anatha nivritti, and where is that? What is it? The fourth. Right at the end of anatha nivritti, it says, anyway, it says something. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. But he explains in that point that how pure devotees may get these types of reactions which you wouldn't expect because they're such great devotees. So he says a few things. The masterful Lord, who always attends to the welfare of his devotee, with the plan to increase the devotee's humility and longing for the Lord, bestows on him all sorts of suffering as his mercy, having no results due from previous acts. He cannot be said to be suffering the effect of sinful actions from previous lives. So, to help the devotee progress, to help the advanced devotee become even more advanced, or like in the cases you mentioned, so we can see how great devotees deal with the types of situations that we get into sometimes. Or Prabhupada says, Prabhupada's asked by Brahmatirtha Prabhu, Bob Cohen, in Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. And Brahmatirtha Prabhu, such a wonderful devotee, he's amazing. He asks Prabhupada that, how is it that you, because you are, such a devotee, you're completely free, you're completely liberated. How is it that you sometimes get the types of things